What's up, guys? It's Benny. As you may well know, I was in Chicago with Secretary Kristi Noem yesterday, inspecting the ICE facility there and watching dozens of libs get arrested as they attacked violently the ICE agents. Their ICE facility in Chicago is under constant paramilitary attack by left-wing terrorists. And it isn't 12 hours after I was wheels up from Chicago that one of the most dangerous attacks on an ICE facility happened right where I was. DHS says that ICE agents in Chicago were boxed in by 10 cars in what is clearly a sophisticated paramilitary operation in order to grind to a halt federal authorities in Chicago. And then the agents had to open fire on the vehicles because they were trapped. They had to go on foot. And one of the people who boxed them in had a semi-automatic weapon in their vehicle, and they had to discharge their weapons at the American citizen. This is getting exponentially out of hand. This morning, during a routine patrol in Broadview, this is exactly where we were yesterday, in the same area of Chicago that law enforcement were assaulted. On our footage, you can see on the video, our brave law enforcement officers were rammed by vehicles and boxed in by 10 cars. This is according to Tricia McLaughlin. She is the Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security. Agents were unable to move their vehicles and exited the car. One of the drivers who rammed the law enforcement vehicles was armed with a semi-automatic weapon. Law enforcement were forced to deploy their weapons and fire defensive shots at an armed U.S. citizen who drove herself to the hospital after getting care for her wounds. The armed woman was named in a CBP intelligence bulletin last week for doxing agents and posting online, "Hey to all my gang, let's go F these mother effers up. Don't let them take anyone." Thankfully, no law enforcement officers were seriously injured in the attack. Pritzker's Chicago Police Department is leaving the shooting scene and refusing to assist us in securing the area. There is a growing crowd, and we are now deploying special operations to control the scene. This is an evolving situation. We'll get more information as soon as it becomes available. This is what the where things have gotten wildly out of control. Saying that this is in America. Chicago is a totally failed state. This was clear yesterday, but what was also clear is that these protests are not organic at all. These protests are extremely well funded. Somebody is trying very hard to ensure that places like Chicago become war zones. Pritzker's police department has done nothing. So the police in Chicago, which is a pretty large police force, they have done nothing to assist federal officers. They won't even let the federal officers use their facilities. Now, doesn't mean that all the police in Chicago are bad. They're being ordered to do this by their political leadership. This is just wild. You can see here some of the scenes. So now there was a shooting by the agents who had to get out of their vehicle. Armed suspect rams vehicle into federal agents in Chicago. See here, this potentially the armed. What is wrong with these women? What's wrong with these people? So here we go. This is some of the posting here. So when we were doing ICE enforcement yesterday in Chicago, there were people that were following us as we were rolling through the streets. They would blow whistles to alert any criminal alien that we were in the area. They would shout from bullhorns. There were multiple people that tried to block ICE enforcement in the area and use their vehicles to ram the cars that we were in. It was incredibly dangerous. Also, of course, illegal. You can't interfere in a law enforcement operation. You can't interfere with police. You can't resist arrest. You can't impede officers. Today in Chicago, members of our brave law enforcement were attacked, rammed, and boxed in by 10 vehicles. This was a sophisticated attack on federal law enforcement, including an attacker with a semi-automatic weapon. I'm deploying more special operations to the scene. Reinforcements are on the way. If you see law enforcement officer today, thank them, says Kristi Noem. Man, it is a completely failed tyranny state. FBI assets have responded and are investigating the incident in Chicago. Trying to intimidate law enforcement will not slow us down. The mission will not stop. The DHS announces federal agents in Broadview were rammed and boxed in by people who wanted to F them up and who were armed. Pritzker's Chicago Police Department is leaving the shooting scene. How can you just leave a shooting scene? They're using the police effectively as agents of terrorism now against federal law enforcement. The police are, just like in Portland, the police are defending the terrorists in Chicago. It is wild, man. They need to bring this under heel. A large group of people are now waving Mexican flags and yelling profanities at law enforcement on the scene. Chicago woman shot by ICE and CBP blocking agents with her car, armed with a semi-automatic weapon. Protesters are gathering on the scene. You can see here what that scene looks like. This is crazy because we were just there yesterday. A legal female criminal tried to run over an ICE agent. She was shot and killed. I don't think that's true. According to the available reports, she is at the hospital receiving care. Disturbance going on now in Chicago. People are surrounding ICE agents. This is extremely, extremely dangerous. You're impeding federal law enforcement. This is illegal. Now, we heard Governor Pritzker confirm this morning the news that we broke yesterday. This morning, the Trump administration's Department of War gave me an ultimatum: call up your troops or we will. It is absolutely outrageous and un-American to demand a governor send military troops within our own borders and against our own will. This is exactly what Kristi Noem told us yesterday. Play the clip in just a second. U.S. Attorney's Office in Illinois. The U.S. Attorney's Office is aware of a serious incident, placed our officer life and safety at risk. Department of Justice will not tolerate assaults on obstruction of our brave men and women in federal law enforcement. We'll investigate and prosecute those who assault and obstruct federal law enforcement, including public officials, and we'll hold them accountable. Ooh, including public officials. Spicy. Very spicy. Okay, good. Well, start with Pritzker. Here's what Kristi Noem told us yesterday. If you were tuned in and locked into our channel, you would know the future because, well, we go to the source and we ask the questions. Kristi Noem yesterday saying the Department of War is going to deploy here in Chicago and in Portland. And boom, baby, we were right. We've seen a lot of attacks in Portland, a lot of news right now with various independent journalists that have been beat, that have been hit in the face, that have been locked up and arrested. What's going on there? Can you give us any status update?
Well, you've got a presence in Portland that is Antifa affiliated. And so that is a situation where you have known professionals, targeted violence that want to tear down America and will apparently attack anyone, even journalists that are just trying to report the truth of what's happening on the streets. So we're not just going to be rolling out of Chicago here, but we're sending in the Department of War at the request that I made to Secretary Hegseth. They're going to be rolling in here within the next 24 hours. Wow. They'll be coming to Chicago too. I put a request in today for them to come to Chicago. And we're going to not only have our officers that are out there with HSI and ICE, but we're also going to have backup from our military. Because everybody deserves that. And so what we saw happen to that journalist last night will not happen again. We will not allow that to happen again, where those individuals are persecuted for trying to show what's happening on our streets and for what they're doing to our law enforcement officers.